Robert Carson was a phenomenal high school football player and basketball player. He also went on to James Madison. Back in the day of talking high school sports, I did a Where Are They Now on Robert Carson. Quality not what I would like it to be now. Maybe my quality is not the best now, but hopefully you can hear some great content as Scott Abell, Dennis Carter, Robert Carson, and more talk about Robert Carson here on the Sports Buffet. Robert Carson was an outstanding performer on the football field and basketball court for Liberty High School back in his day. We had a Where Are They Now on him featuring Robert Carson and others talking about him in December of 2006 on Talking High School Sports. You're going to hear that right now, right here on the Sports Buffet. Right out of the chute here on Talking High School Sports this week, Where Are They Now? You're going to hear two of them a week, one on Saturday, one on Monday. Monday, you're going to hear from Mark Hanks, head coach of the Pulaski County Cougars. Now he spent a lot of time at Liberty High School. One of the guys he coached was a great athlete at Liberty High School under Mark Hanks and some others. Robert Carson, he and Peanut Arrington have their jerseys retired at Liberty High School. And Robert talks about the closeness that he and Peanut Arrington and others experienced. And it was a tight-knit band of brothers.
Well, Peanut, I don't think it was a big secret with that. Everybody knew that me and him were always best friends. I got started playing basketball, and his dad was the coach. And every year of basketball that I ever played, he was on the other wing. He was running the breaks with me. He was practicing with me. And even when we went to play AAU, we both left at the same time and went to Roanoke to play. And there was one year I can remember that they changed the way that they did the rec league teams, and somehow me and him ended up on a separate team. And we didn't like that, so the next year we moved up and played in an age group above ours just so we could get back on the same team. So I just talked to him earlier today. We were best friends then. We're still best of friends. And, I spent plenty of nights at Radford watching him play. And just always wish him the best. But we're just as close now as we were then, if not closer. And, it's tons of players that I share that same relationship with. Chaney, Kelly Garrett, like I said before, J.J. Coles, Rick Rice, Greg Reynolds, all of those guys, Ryan Stevens, all of those guys, we were one family. We were all like brothers. We spent a lot of time together. Even if it was football season, we spent a lot of time together just hanging out. You would never find one of us without seeing the rest of us. And that's probably still true now. And anytime I'm, back in Bedford, if you see me out somewhere, I can promise you're going to see at least one or two of them. We're very close, and we roll together real tightly. So one player that is greatly missed was Rodney Moore, who was living with me, came to live with me, moved from Roanoke, and of course unfortunately he passed away right after we graduated, but he would always be greatly missed. He came in, and from day one, from playing with AAU with him in Roanoke, it was like we were brothers, and that's how all of us was. We didn't look at each other any different. And then, just as much as now, if you challenge one of us, you challenge all of us. No matter which one of us was in the right or the wrong, we stuck up for each other. We always had each other's back, and we was always there to support one another. And that's the same approach we took on the basketball court. And I think that's why we were successful. So, those days are greatly missed.
I wish I had a dime for every time Dennis Carter of ABC 13 called Robert Carson's name for a football story or a basketball highlight. He remembers Robert Carson as a civic-minded person who always gave back, even when his time in Bedford had passed.
I remember Robert Carson as a really good football player, and he also played basketball at Liberty High School, went on to play some football at James Madison, and just a very nice guy to talk to, very polite, and even, he shows that he still cares about the youth by coming back and doing some football camps. I remember talking to him a couple of years ago ago when he came out for a football camp at the jump park out in Forest. So definitely a guy who knows what is important to him, and he comes back and shares his knowledge and talents with the youth that are growing up in his area. So he gives back to his community. So I respect him a lot for that.
Head basketball coach at Altavista High School, Mike Cartolaro, talks about what a great basketball player Robert Carson was in high school.
Well, one, he had great size. Two, he could handle basketball, and three, he was very unselfish, and he really looked to run the team, and he had great floor awareness. That was an amazing thing about him. He really knew where everybody was on the floor, and he didn't make great plays. He would just make the good play all the time, which ended up being a great play half the time. So he's just really solid.
Scott Abell was the head coach at Liberty High School for Robert Carson's senior year. Coach Abell recalls a vivid story against Appomattox where Robert Carson became the man in the third quarter.
I tell you, we played at Appomattox his senior year, and it was my first year as a head coach, so I wasn't a whole lot older than Robert at the time, and it was in a monsoon. It rained, and I remember Robert, him and I having a little heart-to-heart at halftime, and I think we were up by 1 point at the time, and we were having a hard time getting snaps because of the rain. It was just miserable, and I told him, I said, Robert, it's going to be a lot of Robert in the second half. It's going to be a lot of, we'll probably just veer keep, cue sweeps, and that kind of thing. And it did. It turned into a Robert Carson third quarter. We got to open the kickoff, and he used 11 minutes and 28 seconds or something like that of the third quarter and scored. And Appomattox ran one play in the third quarter, and I bet Robert carried it probably 13 times in one drive, I think, something of that nature. And we converted 4 fourth down conversions in the mud. And, I just think that's a neat story that, I carry with me as my career moves on.
Stewart Grant's one of those people that works at Liberty that's been around Bedford probably for as long as he can remember. He talks about Robert Carson, the person.
Robert always had a smile on his face. He was very well liked by all members of the community, not just athletes, but just students in general. He was always helping out, volunteering his time at the local Y with the Youth Rec League program. Robert also did a really good job academically in the classroom, and because of that, and because of his football ability, that's what got him his Division I scholarship in football to JMU.
More old Talking High School sports features such as Where Are They Now, one-on-one with Bob Alvis, teammates checking in, bumps and bruises, rules of the game, inside the game, a whole lot more. Coach's Corner, just to name a few, will be re-debuting, and you'll hear the classic versions as well from Talking High School Sports right here on the Sports Buffet.